Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between. Welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by two of the crustiest crustaceans this side of Bikini Bottom, Sambo and Johnny Larkin. How are we, chaps?
Good.
Pretty crusty.
Nice. Have a big night last
Get
night.
that cleaned up.
Get it looked at. Yeah, good. How are you, Jake?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Shot out of a cannon. Absolutely shot out of a cannon.
Nice.
There you go.
That's
Sweet.
good.
Yep.
I'm the opposite. I literally just rolled out of the room. The kids fell asleep. We tried to record at 8. I was like, I'll be there before 8 o'clock. The kids fell asleep at 7:57, and I
Perfect timing.
almost commando crawled out of the room to not wake them up. And so I'm feeling like my eyes are all blurry.
I thought you were about to say you just crawled out of bed after having a good 2-hour nap, but it was near enough.
Near enough. Yeah.
Speaking of... well, that's the show for this week. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
There was a football game. The end.
Things happened.
On the show tonight, the Cats clipped the Eagles in round 12. We're going to talk all about that. A 43-point victory for your Geelong Cats over the West Coast Eagles, over in the western part of Australia. So we're going to recap all that, then wrap your thinking gear around this one. After we do that, we're going to go to Patreon, in case you haven't heard, and do a bit of news. Geelong, an under-the-radar Geelong player, signed on for another 2 years under the radar, as is his style. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, well, it was under the radar to me anyway. I certainly didn't hear about it until today. Maybe everyone watching this is going, we all heard about it, you fucking idiot, but whatever. I have a life outside of football. Deal with it. So, yes, we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to preview round 13 against the AFL's Nepo Baby Club from the Gold Coast. So if you want all that, go on over, sign up for a 7-day free trial on the Patreon, the Hoops Crew. You can check out what we offer there. It's a lot. Just going to say, it's kind of a big deal. Yeah, lots of stuff.
What's that, the Nepo Babies
I actually,
or our Patreon?
Our Patreon. It's kind of a big deal, John. Yeah. I put my money where my mouth is and actually signed up for a Patreon today, chaps. Podcast that I love that covers Canadian football. So no, it wasn't ours. I'm not giving myself. You think I'd spend my money on this?
You're not an idiot.
No, it wasn't ours.
Please don't leave us.
So yes, do that. Go and check us out on the Patreon. Because it's not just us. It's Paul with the scratching post and Ben doing early access stuff with his show. There's VFL coverage. We're 4 minutes into the show already. You get it. Let's move on. Before we tuck into, of course, the public part of the show, we've got to talk about who brings you the public part of the show. Without these people, there is no show, baby. The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
There'd be 1,000 blossoms bloom.
All right. Thanks, Bob, for a little chime in there. All right, let's tuck in here. We'll start with my game recap, chaps.
Ooh, a special.
Thanks for the positive feedback on these, folks. There's been a bit of Been a bit of stuff in the YouTube comments. I appreciate it. As we've been doing this for like 5 years, we know the stuff in the comment section ain't always positive, but it's very nice that you're enjoying the show this year. And yes, thank you. It's been a long time since I rock and rolled. It's been a long time since I did the stroll. Ooh, let me get it back. Let me get it back. Let me get it back. Baby, where I come from. It's been a long time, been a long time, been a long, lonely, 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 lonely time. Yes, it has. Thus shredded Led Zeppelin on their 1971 screaming hellion track, Rock and Roll. The whole song has a sense of godly perfection, a musical gift bestowed from powers above our earth, perhaps from outside the walls of our reality. The locomotive pounding of the drums, a thunderous bellowing with crashing cymbals, guitar rollicking in a waspish swarm of face-melting riffery. Bluesy keys jaunt and alight as the track hurtles towards its conclusion. Vocals tear through the fabric of the universe. Not a release, instead a calling in of the ethereal beings that make rock, rock. Geelong at its best in 2025 embodies a Zeppelin's sense of rock and roll. There's brawn and brashness around the contest, fire and lightning in the open prairie lands where the dashers dash, an element of sorcery and witchcraft at the pointy end as spindle-limbed magicians bend footballs to their will, a sense of hypnotic mesmeration on every intercepting mark. The Cats needed it all on Sunday night as the West Coast Eagles reminded their fans and many others that while it's been a long time, been a long time, been a long, lonely, 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 lonely time the last few seasons, it won't be long until this is a team to be feared again. There's an assortment of young demons ready to carve up the future in front of a frenzied stadium of blue and gold who have remarkably turned up in great number, even as their club has gone through a lot of torture the last few years. A credit to them, and as reward, they saw their developing side produce one of the best efforts of their season against one of the league's flag contenders. It looked like being lopsided early. The Eagles brought effort, the Cats brought more, and class to shift and transition the football. Goals to Cameron, Stengel, and 2 for Myers made it 29-12 at the first change, but that lead should have been more, Chaps. It soon was, as the Cats split the uprights twice in 3 minutes via the boots of Smith and Close, and answered an Oscar Allen major with one from Ollie Henry. But the worm was turning. West Coast suddenly found success moving the ball by hand with speed. Geelong's relentless waves of overlapping pressure dipped just a fraction, and the Eagles swooped in. 4 of the game's next 5 goals saw the margin reduced to just 11 points at the main break. The Cats steadied the ship early in the second half, goals to Manor and Ollie Henry providing calm. The Eagles quickly chopped the water, with Oscar Allen's 4th of the night and a crowd-sparking goal to Liam Ryan. When Elijah Hewitt kicked Truly to open the 4th term and reduce the gap to only 5 points, the atmosphere out west reached fever pitch. But at fever pitch is where the Cats do their best work in 2025. When the lights are brightest, the crowd at its loudest, their opponent at their most rampant is when Geelong rock and roll. Hooped intensity lifted to vicious levels, opponents hunted down without mercy, the ball flicked around at a crackling pace. Ollie Dempsey and Tyson Stengel conjured wizardry from congestion. Reece Stanley roared from the crypt to deliver a staggering set shot blow around the body. Jack Williams shot one back for the hosts, but the West Coast balloon was about to be definitively punctured by Geelong's puncturer-in-chief. Jeremy Cameron held well throughout the night, set to work torching his beleaguered opponent in a final 10-minute onslaught. The game's last 4 goals all arrived via the ever-hungry boots of Geelong's gangly Goliath, who slapped aside David's slingshot like a child's toy and slammed the door shut on a vastly impressive 43-point victory for the Cats. West Coast huffed, West Coast puffed, but Geelong's house is built of sterner stuff. On rock and roll, on talent, homegrown and acquired, on the game planning of the best coach currently in the game, on the back of a relentless and tireless pursuit of winning. No banana peels here, chaps, just 4 points and sights set on the top 4. Cats 17-14, 116. Eagles 11-7, 73. Johnny, I go to you first for your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I found this game extremely frustrating to watch as a Cats fan. Like the start, I thought was pretty good, and then we sort of just fell into a bit of a weird way of playing where we just weren't penetrating the 50 at all that well. Where I thought like we just seemed throughout that middle part of the game, like the second and third quarter, we get to about the end of the center square and just bomb it in long. And same result would happen each time. Eagles would rebound it pretty easily, get it back out, go on attack on their own. Yeah, it's extremely frustrating from my end anyway. I was watching at home, getting pretty frustrated at the way the Cats were going inside 50 because as we've seen the Cats when they do go inside 50, like they did in that fourth quarter and the start of the first and second, they'll tear teams up easily. But when they get into that habit of just running as far as they can and then bombing it in over and over again, hoping for a different result, I was just getting like, come on, guys, what are you doing? Use a different way of getting inside 50, change it up a little bit, please, at some point, which they did. And as we saw at the end of that game, when the Cats did, they absolutely destroyed West Coast in every facet of the game. So overall, very happy that we got the 4 points. Just as you guys would know, a very annoying, frustrating night on my end. But you know, we still got the 40 points win, which I thought we would get, as you did, Jake. It was like a 40-point win would be pretty well earned. We got that in the end. I thought everyone stepped up when they needed to step up really well, and a few players were a bit quiet, but you know, it was going to be a pretty interesting game coming against West Coast, who, when they're coming against Cats, they've got really nothing to lose. They're either going to lose badly, or they've got that chance where they can cause a pretty big upset. And I think they fell into that area where they can go home feeling pretty good about themselves, that they put up the fight for as long as they could. They didn't lose by 40 points when it could have easily been a pretty horrible night for them. But I thought they played really well. They used their hands extremely well, which is one of the Cats' weaknesses, and especially going through that middle and using a lot latitude, those longitude kicks going across the ground. I thought they were able to execute that really well. Kicking in goal, front goal, I thought they couldn't miss for the first quarter and a bit, could they? They were bloody good. But overall, a frustrating night on my end, but we still get those nice 4 points, which is the main thing. And we go home, no injuries, no worries to players. So yeah, very happy in the end, but just frustrated.
It was interesting. I flicked to you here, Sambo. I thought you made a good point. At one point when we were watching, you sort of said like about the Eagles aren't the team that they used to be, as in that like top end premiership contender, but they're also not the team they used to be, as in they're not the total shitbag despite their record that like they have been the last couple of seasons. So it's almost like, you know, I came away thinking, and as I said in the recap, if they keep their list together, this is going to be a team that is going to be up and about again in the very near future. I thought they played a great game style. I thought they roared back in a situation where other teams might have been, you know, been squashed, like when Geelong extended early in the second term. What were your sort of general thoughts on the game, Sambo?
Yeah, I mean, I had a slightly different experience maybe watching watching it where I didn't find it a terribly frustrating match, but this is for all of the rules and, you know, stats and all this like objective stuff in football. At the end of the day, it's a very subjective experience. You know, I mean, you only have to look at the other team's fans experience to realize how vastly different the human experience can be when watching football. So yeah, for me, like I wouldn't have sniffed at a smashing. I wouldn't have sniffed at it. I would have, but I don't know how much we could have taken from it, and I don't know how much the Eagles either would have taken from it, obviously. And it looked like it almost might not be worth, because I missed the first quarter and a bit. Well, sorry, I was watching it, but I missed seeing it with you, Jake. And it almost looked like the kind of game where it maybe wasn't worth braving the cold and jumping in the car and driving around there.
Yeah.
Like it was almost like, maybe I'll just chuck this on TV. Yeah. So in a weird way, I enjoyed that experience a little bit more than I may have otherwise. Like I love a Roller King smashing, but like I feel like from a neutral point of view, it might have actually been a really good game. I don't know. It's hard to know from a neutral point of view. Like I feel like the Cats, obviously, as you said, John, their delivery inside 50 wasn't clean. But I feel like their delivery inside 50 wasn't clean even when we were doing well. Like in the first, sorry, maybe the delivery was better in the first quarter, but our like conversion was pretty bad. Like it didn't feel like we were playing champagne Cats football in the first quarter. It just happened to be that we were like rolling over the top of them. Like all I mean is I don't want to take away from the Eagles the fact that I think they fought their way back into the game more than we lost it. And the other thing I said to you during the game, Jake, was I can't remember if it was halftime or if it was 3/4 time. But I basically said this feels very familiar for a Cats game this year, which is the Cats come out strong, too strong, and then the opposition has an opportunity to move some magnets, change some things, have a bit of a pep talk, and they come out with their answer. And so far, the pattern this year is the Cats then have another answer, and the other team do not. And that's kind of what, for me, is putting the Cats above everybody else at the moment. It's not just being the best, sheer talent, hard-running footballing side that just nobody can stop. It's this like depth of strategy. It's this depth of options that we can fall back on. And credit to the Eagles, and this is probably where the frustration settled in. And it wasn't just you, John. There's plenty of people that were frustrated about this experience. But where that settled in is, I think that answer just took a little longer than I expected from the Cats. Like I think it took us a bit longer than I thought for us to put the foot back on the throat, to kind of get back ascendancy back and get where we were going. But overall, I kind of always felt like the Eagles were going to pose some questions to us. And I was pretty impressed at the end of the day with how the Cats ran it out, because I thought the composure is probably a big thing. Like I thought the Eagles actually had some players, and we did it at points, but we reined it in again. But I thought the Eagles had some players who were like letting the moment get on top of them a bit. Harley Reid, one of them. Like, so there's some times when I felt like if you just put your head down here and focus on the game, like you could have made a second effort there. But there was some times when Harley Reid was having a bit of a sook. There was another fella, and I forgot his name now, for West Coast Eagles, but there's a couple of times where free didn't go his way, or he missed a shot or whatever. And it just felt like maturity, not maturity of years, because I don't know the ages of all the players, but maturity of system is something that Geelong has in spades at the moment. The ability just to kind of go, all right, we've still got time. We've got another quarter and a half. Let's do this and this and this. So yeah, I thought that Eagles I felt like they caved under our pressure at first, and we forced them to over handball, but not handball in an effective way, as we've talked about in the past on the pod. The difference between the handballing game that hurts us and the handballing game that doesn't hurt us. And I thought early they were over handballing it and playing into our hands really well. And then once they got, like, the way they got back on par was, and I think you've already alluded to this, John, was that their handballing game became a bit sharper. Like they were just being more efficient. They weren't fumbling as much. So it just makes it so much harder to apply that pressure when they resist it better. But the other thing, I thought they became really daring with their kicks. I thought some of their kicks were really like at speed, kind of low percentage kicks, but they were pulling them off with almost like Collingwood. I think this is what we spoke about against Collingwood when we played them, where like some of their kicks were just, and I felt like that was, I didn't think our pressure dropped. I didn't think our structure fell apart too much. It was just that the way the Eagles suddenly were attacking the game sort of just took it away from us, took the opportunity away from us to play that. And so I feel like we then shifted into a slightly more defensive model. Like I feel like our spare behind the ball became more prominent in the back end of the third into the fourth quarter. Like I feel like if I watched it again, or if we could have a worm for like intercept marks, I feel like our intercept mark worm would have gone up way higher. That we read the fact that they weren't trying to like run and dash with handball all the time, and they were doing these big kicks. And I feel like Stewart, Guthrie, even O'Connor, and De Koning started to get and Henry as well, obviously started to get a lot more of those sort of those inside 50s where the ball, sorry, the intercept marks where the ball is kicked and it looks like the opposition's kicked it straight to them because they've read it so early and they've filled up that space. And I thought that was probably the back that we launched our fourth quarter assault off, was just that easy. No, I'm just gonna cut this off and kind of kick it around and transition back out of the back. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed the strategy of the game, and I felt like a win like that is another tick for me in the Cats of like going away. It's not going to necessarily going to go the way the media thinks, the fans think, maybe the players think, and we have to like reach into the trick bag and see what else we've got.
Johnny,
Yes.
on that stuff you're talking about, like the inside 50, and obviously Sam's thoughts I want on this too, but this is how the show works. One of you speaks, I pivot to the other one. This is sort of like how the sausage gets made. So
Sausage.
with that stuff, you know, that was frustrating. Oh boy.
We're entitled to the
Don't take that out of context.
Sorry, Bob already did. The stuff that was frustrating you, and it sounds like a lot of it was that bombing inside 50 or maybe a lack of execution going inside forward 50. Like, do you, from your perspective, did they fix that in the last quarter? Like, did you, if you could just isolate, I suppose, how the game finished, and obviously, you know, a game you go through the motions, the emotion of having to watch all four quarters. Like, what did you think of that fourth quarter performance? Did you take like a lot from that? Do you think things were figured out on the field that were going wrong in the second and third terms?
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, definitely. Like the way they were able to transition inside 50 definitely was a lot more cleaner, a lot more thought out and smarter. But they weren't just kicking it long and letting the West Coast Halls double team Shannon Neal or Jeremy Cameron and sort of pass it to them instead of like on top of them. And yeah, and once they started doing that, we really did get on top. So I think it was sort of like the coaching, Chris Scott just going, you remember, once we go inside 50, we just lowered a bit, lowered them eyes, as they say, and just pass more direct to those players. And I thought also just the hunger as well inside 50, like that idea to just put in that little bit of extra second effort, second go at the feet really stepped up a bit more for the Cats in that fourth quarter, just going, you know, they've had their fun. Let's just put this to bed as quick as possible. And I thought they did. But yeah, it was definitely a big turnaround, and one I thought that was, yeah, a very pleasing end to the game. Like, yeah, as I said, those second and third quarters were pretty frustrating. But the really good part was they were able to address that in the fourth quarter and really just nail it and get on that really good run, which got them 4 pretty quick goals and pretty easy goals as well. Like all those goals in that fourth quarter looked really straightforward, really easily done, and a good way to end this game and move on to next week against Gold Coast. And it also felt like a classic Cats 10-day break game. But I can't remember the last time the Cats came out of a bye or a long break playing extremely well through an entire game. So yeah, it always throws me when we have a 8+ day break.
What did I'd love. I don't have the quarter by quarter stats on me. I don't have the app like the AFL app on my phone, but I would love to know. Was it in the last quarter? I'm just trying to think that. Duncan. Yeah, it was. It was Duncan. Closey gets a ball, hands it to Duncan, and Duncan just. I think you and I both said, Sam, like there's only probably maybe one or two players in our whole team that lace a ball out like that. To I think was it Cameron on the lead, and he marked it smack on the chest. Like that was an example, I think, of some of that forward line efficiency. I guess Stanley taking the contested mark as well was another mark inside 50. But I'd love to know, what those tackling numbers looked like, what the marks inside 50 numbers looked like for the Cats, say, quarter by quarter, because it did feel like there was a change. Like I thought, and not just because I felt like our problems were probably starting in other places too. I do feel like our pressure just dropped ever so slightly in the second quarter. There was a moment, Sambo talked about it a few weeks ago, that overlap pressure, how one, Geelong player peels off his man to go to the guy who's about to receive the ball, and someone needs to peel off their guy to go to the guy who's been vacated. And it was just happening like half a tick too slow. There was a moment where Brad Close had to leave his man on the wing. Mark O'Connor was the next man to come in. But instead of being there as the ball arrived, O'Connor sort of arrived just as the ball was going off that player's boot. And it was just like, okay, there's that illustration of just dipping just enough that it brings West Coast's handball game into it. And I agree with you, Sambo. Like this, you have to credit the Eagles for taking the game on because it was the only way they were going to be in it. Like they didn't play conservatively because they were going to get diced if they did.
And it really shows that if you're not playing your best throughout the entire game, any team can come back and snatch a good victory off you. But yeah, the Cats definitely dropped that pressure, and the West Coast capitalised on it. They recognised it and they ran away with that bit of momentum that they got, which is full credit to them. I thought, yeah, as you guys have already said, they played a really, really good game. They identified Cat's weakness and identified a bit of drop in pressure, and they really went for it. So yeah, always got to be on in this season, otherwise any team is going to get a good victory, as we saw over the weekend. Like Melbourne and St Kilda, Melbourne missing all those shots, St Kilda to capitalise. It's not going to take much for a bottom 8 side to beat a top 8 side. I don't reckon. Like, yeah, anyone can beat anyone this season, I feel.
Yeah, I think it's the point you made, Jake, where you were like, they are all professional athletes. Like, West Coast might be on like a team like West Coast or North Melbourne or whoever's like floating around the bottom. It's kind of like, yeah, they might be 18 on the ladder or 17 on the ladder, but that still means they're the 17th or 18th best AFL football side in the country. Out of I mean, how many teams are there in the country if you count all the leagues and the like the VFL and then all that, like the ovens and all that kind of stuff. Like at the end of the day, the Eagles would belt up any of those teams. Like they're only just outside being one of the 10 best in the you know what I mean? Like it's and it shows. And I think we've talked about like the last few weeks, Bulldogs missed a lot of shots against us. The Pies missed a lot of shots against us, and then it was kind of our turn to miss a lot of shots. And I feel like I would put this into the similar camp where you go, yeah, maybe if we took some of those, it changes the score a bit. But also, it felt like the shots that were being missed was more the point, as opposed to the shots that were being taken was more the point. Like I feel like, and I'm not ragging on our team at all. Like I think this is natural, but I feel like maybe just a slight little bit of overconfidence crept in with some of the shots that were being taken. Now there was times when I felt like that was going to happen and it didn't. There was a point when Shawnee Manor was going to bomb one from outside 50, and we went, surely he's not going to back himself, and he didn't. But there's just a few times where you're like, I feel like we're playing really well here. We're getting into really good positions, and maybe we're just biting off some shots that are pretty low percentage. There was probably a disposal to like cut back across the line and hit someone up 25 out instead of having to go like the shot from there. I'm not going to name players because I just don't think it's something I want to lay anyone out for individually, but just as a team. Because even as us with fans, like some of the frustration people are feeling too, I was like, I feel like this probably comes from a place of it's just not looking like how we thought it was going to look against the Eagles. It's not so much
Yeah,
that we're
definitely.
playing absolutely awful. It's not so much that we're going to shit the bed here. It's just kind of like, aren't we just going to smash them?
Well,
Isn't this what's meant to happen? This isn't the
It is.
script.
It is meant to happen, but yeah, I fully agree with you there, Sam, about just being a bit overconfident in themselves and trying to, just being a little bit too cocky every now and then. And yeah, you can't let that creep in because, West Coast did what West Coast did and punished us each time. And I thought those cockiness that made the mistakes led to them pretty rapidly transitioning. And we know what happens against the Cats.
Yeah.
We're a very attacking side where, we attack, and if it gets turned over, oppositions can punish us pretty well. And that's the other thing I thought West Coast did really well when they were able to intercept. They punished really quickly and really easily. I thought they're, again, going on about their bloody ball movement. Their ball movement was slick and fast when it needs to be. But yeah, I agree that overconfidence, I definitely felt that at certain points of the game.
But and it's also funny, like we've had a couple of stray thoughts as you chaps have been talking. Like one, the second and third terms, as a for instance. They outscored us across the second and third quarters, 7 goals for to our 6 goals for. So, like the period of the game in which we felt that they really got on top, there was 1 goal difference. And then you look at the first and final terms, Geelong outscored them 11 goals, 10, 76, if my math is correct, to
Correct.
4 goals, 3, 27. So, 76 to 27 in the fourth and in the first and fourth quarters by my at first glance math, and then 7 goals 4 to 6 goals 4 in the second and third quarters when they were at their absolute best. So, like, I do think a part of it is the badge on the score sheet. It's the badge on the uniform. If that was Collingwood, say, and I know it is different teams and therefore, but I guess I say that to say, I think West Coast played really, really well. Like, and so any other team in any other Guernsey, if we fended off their best effort and then pummeled them in the final term, I just think the vibe would be different. But the other stray thought I had, I don't know about you chaps, I don't believe in the myth that you need to play 4 good quarters to win a game. And I don't believe you have to be a 4-quarter team to win a flag. I think you need in the grand final. I think you need three really good quarters, but I don't think you have to be. I don't think you need an epic in every quarter. I just don't believe it. I think it's.
I don't think you win a grand final if you shit the bed in any quarters. If you shit the bed in one quarter, I don't think you win the grand final. But if you play 3 competitive ones, I think you can win a grand final with 1 awesome quarter.
Yeah. I don't. And going back to like, you don't need to win 4 quarters to win the game or play extremely well. I don't think any team could say they've played a great game of great 4 quarters. I think every team's had those games would have had a couple of really bad quarters, but the Cats have. The Cats definitely have. What matters at the end is how you finish off the game. And yeah, pleasingly, the Cats were able to finish this game off extremely well and get back to the way they know how to play, the way they can play, and the way they, us fans sort of expect them to play is that punishing, quick ball moving out of the centre, deliver it to Jeremy Cameron, deliver it to Neil, Dempsey, Close and all that, and just don't let them take a breath. But yeah, like those second, third quarters at the end of the day, doesn't really matter. We come away as the 4 points. They don't. We move on. They move on. They're happy. We're happy. Or they're not happy that they didn't get the 4 points, but I think they'll be happy knowing that they can put up that performance and nearly clinch a big upset. And then the Cats just go, well, we came over, we've got the points, let's go home, move on to next week. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
All good in the end.
It's funny, isn't it? Like I think
Yeah.
like broadly philosophically in terms of how we all think about footy, like as fans and I think even in the media and all that sort of thing, like there is a lot of mythology that floats around. I think that you have to adhere to these things. Well, you can't. You've got to at some point in the season you have to transform into a four quarter team. It's actually total bullshit if you think about it. Think about the best games Geelong have won, like when the opponent is playing well and Geelong plays well and Geelong wins. We haven't won every quarter. The game against Collingwood was absolutely seesawing. The game against the Dogs, absolute seesaw. The Crows game,
Easter Monday.
it's a really weird one. It's such a myth. And it was funny. I went back and looked at the 2022 grand final. It sort of lost on me that we kicked the same amount of goals as the Swans in the second quarter. Like we blitzed them 6-5-41 to 1 straight 6 in the first. Then it was 3 goals 3 to 3 goals 2. Blitzed them in the third term. We added 6 goals 3 to their 1 behind. Final term we kicked 5 goals 2 to their 4 goals 1. Like, and obviously we were well on top. But I just think the reality is in any game, like the other team, if they're any good, are gonna have moments. And I think that's why I liked this game from Geelong, is because when there were moments to be measured by, we measured up. We found ways to wrestle it back, sort of thing.
And didn't Collingwood essentially win a flag on the back of the last 7 minutes of 12 of their games? like,
yeah.
and I think
Being
that's
good
the difference.
fourth quarter team's not a bad thing to have.
in that year when Collingwood were just scraping by in the last minute, I think the important part is they didn't really ever crap their dacks. They played 3 competitive quarters, and then they were able to like really lock it down in the last. And I think that's pretty much how the Cats have gone all year, even in our losses. I think we've been pretty much starting strong and then having a bit of a wrestle through the middle of the game and then generally ending pretty strong. It's just what really helps is if your start is hard and effective enough to not matter. Like if we had kicked an extra 5-6 goals in that first quarter, the game could have played out exactly as it did, and it'd be sort of hubbub about like, ooh, it would have been more like, oh, the Cats have gone to sleep a little, and like Eagles having a bit of a purple patch, and then the Cats put the foot down and finish it, because that's essentially how the game went. It's just the scoreboard didn't reflect it. Like I feel like the scoreboard first part of the game was flattering to the Eagles, and then the scoreboard by the end of the game was a little flattering to us. Like it kind of overall rounds out to be reasonably accurate. But I'm really pleased each week at the moment that the Cats start strong. I don't think we've had many real sleepy starts, and then when questions are posed and things are moved around, we've generally got answers, and we generally come out in that fourth quarter with a real intent to try and close it out if we don't do it. I feel like we're just getting top marks in that department for me. Like our supporters, how we put performances together is I'm very happy with. But yeah, there will continue to be moments and long stretches of games where we go, God, we can't do anything right here.
Yeah, definitely.
Just
and it'll be kind of boring.
Just had a few
if we didn't have
stats.
those moments.
Sorry,
True. Go for it, Jack.
No, I was just going to say the forward 50 entry was interesting. I think the stats kind of bear out what we've said. Like if you combine what you watched with your eyes and then what the stats say, it checks out because like we know there was those times where it wasn't going right, but then when they got it right, they got it so right that it actually sort of balanced things out because we were actually up in a couple of stats, like in terms of the inside 50. This season, we're averaging 52.4 inside 50 entries per game and 13.7 marks inside 50. So that's basically a mark inside 50 on 26% of entries. Against West Coast, we had 59 entries and 17 marks. So that's 28.8% of entries inside 50, resulting in a mark. And we're on par with our goal, our percentage of inside 50 entries that turn into a goal. So I think it all ties together basically that when the Cats were not clicking, those stats would have been down. Once we pulled it back together, I think we did it so well that it sort of rights the ship. And I guess that gets to what we're talking about, where you don't need to be this perfect, even keeled, like 4-quarter thing. You just need to be that team. They used to talk about this with the early 2000s Lions. Those Lions teams just needed like 15 minutes a game. I think they used to talk about 10 or 15 minute patch where they would just go bang and hit you with like 5 goals in 10 minutes or 5 goals in 15 minutes. And that was essentially the ball game, because apart from that, they could kind of weather your blows, twist, grab your fist, twist your arm and make you punch yourself in the face. Like, I think that is, it's, so I don't know if we think about it, it's not the premiership winning teams are not necessarily the team that plays great for 4 quarters. It's the team that has that quarter that kills you. They're the team that has that knockout blow capability.
It reminds me
And I
of
think
like the Cats, what the Cats used to do in 2007, 2008, 2009, 10, 11 was they would let other teams play they wanted to play. And I always remember, I think I brought up the pod before, always remember watching going, the Cats are just going to, at one point throughout this game, just go, right, you've had your fun. We're going to play the proper game now. And then they did and just trounced them. And he said it would always just be 1 quarter, but it just go, right, that's enough. We're going to play. And then that was it.
And do you guys think it's actually being a little overlooked how dominant that fourth quarter was?
I think so.
Like I feel like that's getting
it was
lost
one-sided.
amongst ourselves and like in the broader media as well. Like, people are like, oh, Cameron got some cheap junk time goals or whatever, and you're like, they actually don't think they were. Maybe 1 or 2 of them were class as that, but I think a lot of those goals were actually more reflective of a dominant stretch while the game was still hot. The Eagles actually drew it back to like within 5 points right before that, and then we just kind of went, nah, that's enough of that. The Eagles' last goal was there was still 17 minutes of the game left. But they didn't kick a goal for the last 17 minutes of the match. The biggest lead of the match was the final. Like, in a lot of ways, like, I feel like people are talking about it as though like we blew out the big lead and then coughed it up and then just kind of like managed to pad out at the end. But the biggest lead of the whole match was in the fourth quarter. When the Byron, that was to that point the biggest lead of the game. The Eagles didn't hit the front once. Like, they didn't even get up the game and kick a point. They didn't get it up. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, I think all credit to the Eagles. They played really well. But I think the way that this match is being talked about is also somewhat to the credit of the Cats, that this feels like a victory for the Eagles. That they played so well that they almost took the lead at one point. Like, I think we got to take that as a compliment, really.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely felt like one of those games where the Cats felt like they should be so much further in front if they just took those shots. But again, it was like one of those games where I feel like a lot of our shots were sort of in those 50-50 positions early in the game.
Yeah.
It was like, this is not a normal shot normally be taking, or players just not kicking it through the ball properly. Like, there was just a few players that just missed shots they normally wouldn't. Just one of those nights where, half those shots in the first quarter, you'd bank them getting, and they just didn't this game. And then, as you said, Sam, that last quarter when we were dominant, we couldn't miss.
I would say too, we probably failed to capitalize on one of our strongest stats, which is probably our inside 50 pressure. Which there was a couple of times where we were mounting so much pressure in the forward 50, and then when we would win it, a lot of the time we wouldn't win it. There'd be a bounce where you go, "Oh, we just needed that to bounce the other way," and it's like, you know, it didn't, and that's football. That happens because we got on the green side of those plenty of times too. But there's that. And also, there's times where maybe we just faffed around with it a little more than we normally would once the ball came to ground and came out. It was like either someone passed it too many times, like we were like, "No, you take it," or someone like I do feel like there was a couple of players that repeat offenders during this game that maybe picked the ball up and thought, "Oh, there might be a goal in this," and then there was an approaching tackle, and they went, "I'm going to go around this one, and I'm going to get that goal," and then there was like point where finally forced to give a disposal, and then it just wasn't as high percentage as that first disposal they could have got. Pick it up, handball it out to someone else that's running through. Like there's just like some of those little cleanliness things that you feel like maybe when the pressure's on, maybe if it's not the Eagles, we take that. Maybe again a little bit of hubris creeping in to go, "Oh, I'm gonna kick 6 tonight." You know, I'm gonna start rolling. I gotta start kicking my goals.
Yeah.
I think the Cats are best when they trust their process, they trust their system. I know they're tired, sort of overused words, but I think it very much applies to this team when they when they do those basic things. If they build it off that hard.
Yeah, I still think it's the long breaks. These long breaks just don't sit well with these Cats players. Don't know what it is.
That being said, though, we played so well in the first quarter. Like you would think it would start slow. If it was a break, you'd think it'd start sleepy and then have to work back into it.
I've got we're going to get into votes, but I actually going to change the format up of the show ever so slightly. So we're going to do our votes and then we're going to go over to Patreon. But just quickly, got a message on Spotify, a comment from Studio Cat 11, who said, "Great chat, chaps. Fine analysis. Would love your thoughts on Dangerfield's best use on his return." That's how it's written in the message. So that's how I read it.
Thank you.
Where is you know, when they talk about like analysis, you know, you wonder where they hide out, that terrorist group.
Yeah.
That's
the cave.
Danger's best Danger's best use on his return and the chemistry in our forward line next chat. Thanks, boys. So yeah, I just wanted like a couple of minutes on the clock. Both of you. What are your thoughts when Danger comes back in? Because Jezza Cameron's kicked 19 goals in 3 weeks.
I still think we just put him back in that forward line. Danger's been playing incredible in that forward line. Rolling through the midfield every
Fuck him, I want to see Jezza kick goals.
Yeah, so do I. But I still think like I can't see any reason why we need Dangerfield in that midfield at the moment. I think they're all doing exceptionally well. And I think he has, during this part of his career, his biggest impact is in that forward line. And we've seen it game in, game out this year. Is if we come up against a really good side, we need someone to really impact. Dangerfield's been that player. So I would still have him playing the forward line and just say work around Jezza. Jezza's still the main man. Still use Jezza as the main target. But Dangerfield's still there as that massive threat to impact if needed.
Yeah. Do you think like Jez is the main man, but do you think like how much is his impact impacted by Danger? Like, do you have the clarity? Because I don't. I feel like it's, and I know this is wrong, but it feels to me like the difference of Jezza kicking 1 goal to Jezza kicking 7 goals. And I know that's extreme. I know that's not true. But that's kind of how it feels, right? Like when he was in there, I don't remember Jezza kicking a bag any games when Danger was there.
I have a look.
And I would be
I'm
probably
literally,
kick
I'm
4
bringing
in
it up
average.
now.
Because
well,
I mean,
I know
There was
if he's
definitely
kicked
one.
38 goals, you go, you keep talking. I'll look this up.
well, I was
Sorry.
gonna say, it feel like what a problem to have is what I was gonna say. Essentially, what a
Yeah, sure.
blessing to be trying to figure it out. Because I kind of I know you were somewhat joking, Jake, but I kind of do sit a little bit on the fence here of like, at the end of the day, as long as the Cats win, I don't care. I was loving seeing Danger there. I loved the Brownlow talk of Danger. I loved everyone's like career best form. That felt good to hear all that talk. But also, there's nothing quite like watching Jezza kick 7.
Yeah, it definitely isn't.
This is the breakdown. He's kicked. Ches has kicked 38 goals, 14 this season. 19 of them. So he's kicked half of his goals. Sorry, my maths is slightly off. 18. He's kicked 18 goals the last 3 weeks. 18 goals, 3 the last 3 weeks. Now, prior to that, you got to bear in mind, he did have 3 bags of 4 with Danger in the side. So it's not like he was not kicking goals. Like his opening to the season was, by his standards, somewhat quiet. He had 4 goals, 1 against Freo, 1 goal straight against St Kilda, 1 goal straight against Brisbane, 1 goal, 2 against Melbourne. But since then, he went 4 goals, 1 against Adelaide, 2-3 against Hawthorn, 4-2 against Carlton, 1-1 against Collingwood, 2-1 against the Giants, 7-1, 6-zip, 5-2. I
So
do think it
there's a big
impacts
gap. There's a big
personally.
gap. Yeah.
But I'm not saying I'm not saying that it impacts so much that you shouldn't play Dangerfield in the forward 50. But I 100% think Jeremy Cameron does not play as much inside the forward 50 when Danger's there. They will float him up onto the wing. They'll float him up on stoppages again. We won't. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think for worse and for better, Dangerfield is a moth to a flame. Wherever the football goes, he will go. So I think we are a muddier forward line when he's in there because it's just who he is. It's just by definition. I don't think we're a worse side. I just love watching Jez when it's his forward 50 arc. But
I
more
would
than anything,
love
I want to see another flag. So
I would love a combination of the two. I don't know, and I don't know if this is tactically not happening and that like wasn't happening and now it will. I would love both of them up there. Danger's there. When we do those big lofty, Smith picks it up and runs it out of the 50 and just belts it on the boot. Runs out of the center and belts it into the 50. Danger's your man. It's floating in. Get Danger to jump up and smash it, bring it down, and that brings Stengel, Dempsey, these guys into the game to try and get a goal, if not Danger. But then also a healthy dose of low scything kicks off the laces to a leading Jezza. Like, that seems healthy to me. Like, I don't think Jezza kicks anywhere near as many goals if we're relying on high floaty balls into the forward 50 because I think he's surprisingly, for a big gangly fella, he's surprisingly good at ground ball gets and like goals from a blender. I think he is surprisingly
see
good.
last quarter.
Last quarter, and I think he led the team for ground ball gets inside 50. But I don't think it's necessarily his strongest suit. I don't think he kicks 7 of those. I think he kicks 3 of those and 4 marked set shot goals. So I think there's a lot at play. I think the reason he didn't kick as many goals when Danger was in was also partly form. Like I think he has really kicked his way into form. So I think he'll hopefully continue to kick more goals. But I think there's also just this hierarchy of targeting where Danger's in there. He's the captain. He's a massive bloke that draws a lot of attention. Like I think he gets targeted a lot. And that also takes Jezza out of it a little bit. Like my 100% preference without knowing what the plan is or what the plan was even with both of them in there. My preference would be that Danger goes into the forward line, but we provide a healthy dose of like what Duncan did. When Duncan hit Jezza up on the lead, it's like just also do that like 6 times and he might get 3 marks and kick 3 of those goals. Like that's what, because I think it's healthy too. Like I think like you're talking about, John, a stagnant delivery system just gets figured out. And you can't. So I think kicking on the line from the player toward the goal, Danger will eat that up, and then every other time, kick it off the line, kick it sideways, kick it short. And Jezza let Jezza lead. I think there is a world where we can figure it out where Danger's kicking 3 or 4, and Jezza's kicking 5 or 6. Like I think there's a world here.
I'm interested.
If they can
I mean,
get that working, then that's a scary combination. And then Shannon Neal popping up with a goal to here, Close, Dempsey, Manor, Brian Myers, like that would be the ideal world, and that would be a scary, scary proposition.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really interested to see how. I thought Ollie Henry was actually pretty good on the weekend. I thought he did some really great pressure efforts. I love that hunger in our forward line, and all those players have to be on, because you just don't know. I suppose too, Jack Martin we'll talk about in the Patreon part of the show and on my VFL show on Wednesday night. But Jack Martin had another really nice game in the twos. You know, another sort of medium-sized player coming in. We don't know exactly where the Cats want to use him. I know in his first game of VFL, they played him predominantly out of the back 50. You know, if you're an Ollie Henry and, you know, Dangerfield's going to come back in, Jack Martin is playing really well in the VFL, I love the hunger that it breeds of like, I have to keep tackling. I have to keep competing. And I really like that. So, no, it's an interesting one because there's no doubt that the forward line functions and it just looks different. I'm not saying we've kicked plenty of high scores with Danger in the side and he's done a lot of damage, but it does feel like it changes the way Cameron's able to sort of dominate and go to work. The beauty, I suppose, when Danger is resting inside 50, then you can just easily throw him in on ball. You know, if Danger needs that amount of time of rest that he plays up forward, you can't, for instance, play him from the bench. Doesn't it feel like this is part of the equation of putting Danger up forward? It's like we don't have to sacrifice rotations by leaving Danger on the bench for the amount of time he needs at this age to recover. We can put him up forward, he can recover up there some of the time, float him back on ball, then maybe has a stint on the bench, then rotates through the midfield, then goes up forward. Like it's an interesting jigsaw puzzle that they're trying to work out here. And Geelong are definitely a better side with Danger in the team, but Jeremy Cameron, I like to see him cook. Thanks so much for the question.
Good
anyway, Studio Cat. Exactly. Hopefully you enjoyed our analysis. Also, shout out to our man. I'm assuming it's a man. I don't know. Dobber Sanchez, who always pops up in the Spotify comments, particularly as far as it pertains to the Reece Stanley cryptology. I was a big fan of the old Tales from Reece Stanley's crypt.
How was that backhand from Reece Stanley?
All right, so
karate chop.
Backhand,
so nice
to the soul of West Coast.
Power Rangers move.
Loved it. It really was. That's a great way to describe it. Power Rangers spike choreography.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, chaps, let's quickly do votes for players who stood out to us and did other stuff good too. John Doe, you can rip us through your 1 to 3, then Sambo, then me. And we'll have a quick chat about it.
Just grab me votes. 1, Max Holmes. 2, Brian Myers. 3, Bailey Smith.
Sambo.
I have chopped and changed even during the show, to be honest. I've dipped into the old Google Docs to change back and forth. Not being players, my set, but for me, these 3 players probably could have been like just completely like flipped on its head from this. So I've got 1 Max Holmes, I've got 2 Bailey Smith, and I have 3 Grand Mars.
Holy shit! This might be the first time this season that we've got different formations but the same players. I have 1 vote to Brian Myers. I have 2 votes to Bailey Smith. I have 3 votes to Max Holmes.
Does that mean they all
It's
get
going
the
to be an
same amount
interesting
of votes?
Patreon section.
They all get 6?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting Patreon section because there was like 2 or 3 players that were like really close, and I chose these 3 because I was like, "Oh well, Sambo will put that player at in, or Johnny will play put that player in."
I've
And
snuck
it
out
didn't
because
happen,
in
so
so
it'll be
many
interesting.
times I had to give him a week off.
All right, then.
It's becoming too obvious.
So who was your 3? Who was your 3, Sambo?
Grime Myers.
All right, let's do it like this because we're going to talk about all 3 players. The person who put their free vote as that player talks about them. So Sambo, you talk about
Yeah.
Brian. Johnny, you talk about Bailey Smith. I'll talk about Max Holmes. Sambo, you start us off.
I just think to just quote myself again, quote us again, in terms of like perfect versions
shark.
of that player's game. Like I this is probably the first time for me since he's come back that I've really gone. And then not to say I disrespected him previously, but this is the first game where I'm like,
You heard it here first. Sam's been disrespecting Grind Myers this whole time.
yeah, he's just been since he came back from that absolutely cataclysmic smash to the head. He's just been dog shit, honestly. I don't know what his excuse is. It was like he wasn't even there for at least a couple of games.
Yeah, it's like he was recovering from a concussion.
It's like he was in hospital for a bit or something. No, he's been good, but this was to me the first game that was really like we are a different side without this guy in here. And not just in the ways that it's not just the champagne football like kick back across the body to set up a mark. It's his work rate as well. Like I thought his ground. Like everyone loves to talk Holmes and Smith's ground coverage. I thought Myers was absolutely everywhere. I feel like it looked like a highlights reel sometimes where you're like, oh, he just took a mark in the back line. Oh, and then he set up a goal, and it looks like it must have been separated by minutes because this must be a highlights reel. But it's he just covered that distance. And I just think he's a player that is really playing within his own skin. Like he knows, and this happened. This development happened a couple of seasons ago. But he's a player that knows how to use his own abilities. He knows what he's capable of and what he's not. Like that goal, the goal he kicked, that just flushed kick from like that was just a guy he knew that was going in well before he kicked it. And you can always tell with him, I feel like with his run up, he's one of those guys where you're like, oh, he's not feeling this. He's not feeling this one. And then he'll shank it. He was just so within his skin and playing to his strengths. Led the team for effective disposals. So like his disposal efficiency was obviously pretty high, but just overall the most effective disposals. And I think he was up there in he was third on the team for pressure acts as well. He was sorry, he only had 1 tackle inside 50. I thought he had 2 tackles inside 50. But he was second on the team for score involvements with 9, only behind Jeremy Cameron with 10. I led the team for effective kicks as well. So it wasn't just his disposal, but the damagingness of it and the meterage that he was able to gain with that very strange kicking action that they just can't help.
Oh, fuck's sake.
It'd be a great drinking game. The amount of times they mentioned the way he kicks it. Funny old kicking action, isn't it? And then even in the post-game interview, they brought it up that someone else had said someone else was in the box with me. And he said, God, he kicks it funny, doesn't he? Like, he must get so sick of it. Absolutely have a gut full.
Are you finished with your analysis of his playing? Because I
the last thing I was
if
going to
not,
say
I've
was
got a
just
side thought,
he also led the team for marks. So I thought that was substantial.
Work rate. Yeah, sorry, just a side analysis to the fact that they cannot help themselves but comment on his strange kicking action. Do you know what I love is the commentators always bring it up, but then it's like the people who are employed to like do expert analysis, cutting edge football theorem all respond with, well, they'd probably coach that out of you nowadays, wouldn't it? Wouldn't they? If you went head Oz kick like that, they'd coach it out of you. And it's just like, great. We've only heard this bit 4,000 fucking times since he started in
Yeah.
2019. Like, Jesus
I feel like this
Christ.
narrative played out in 2021. I think nobody should be mentioning it at this point.
Yeah,
Oh, Jesus.
I do like
Johnny, Bailey
that's the-
Smith.
Oh yeah, Bailey Smith.
Oh yeah, he's pretty good.
Oh
isn't he?
yeah, he's
Sorry,
pretty good.
I
Is
do-
he does all right. Yeah, just as I said at previous times when I've put Bailey Smith in the votes or in the 3 MVP position, he's just been in rare form for a player of his caliber. Like he's just been absolutely incredible. Like just second behind meters gained of Max Holmes, 5 clearances, a really nice goal, set up some really nice goals as well. 55% disposal efficiency, which is what we want from him for 38 disposals. Good tackle, good amount of tackles. How many tackles did he get? Got 4 tackles. So yeah, I just feel like he continues to do everything that we need him to do. He got held up pretty well in that third quarter, second or third quarter, or that little patch. The third quarter, sorry. Yeah, he got held really well in that third quarter. But what really impressed me was he was able to respond in the fourth and really help drive the Cats to a really good victory in the end. And yeah, like he's definitely stepping into a really good leadership role for the Cats of going, yep, me and Max Holmes, we're going to lead from this midfield. We're going to lead the way. You guys follow us, and we'll take a rest from there. And yes, once him and Max Holmes have got this first season under the belts together, I think these two are going to combine into a pretty terrifying combination for a very long time because they're both so young and yet both extremely talented. Like Max Holmes is just absolutely flying under the radar, and yet he is playing just as well as Bailey Smith. Like some of his games this year have been exceptional, and still struggled to get him in the top 3. But he's got in my top 3 this week. But to get in the 3 when Bailey Smith is doing these things, so I was really glad you got him, Jake. He's your number 3. But yeah, it's just everything he does is exceptional, and I'm glad the Cats got him. And I'll say it again, my hype for him is building each week. Each week it gets really hard to ignore what he's bringing to this club and the excitement and the hope that builds in you watching him play and just helping this team.
I hate to tell you, John. I do hate to tell you, but your votes are instantly disqualified because you've ordered them exactly the same as the AFL fantasy rankings. I can't accept it. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Fair enough.
They cannot be right.
That's fair enough.
We can't accept that the AFL rankings have it correct. So we must erase this data. Yeah.
I accept the judgment of my fellow judges and accept my execution.
Commit seppuku. Footballing statistical seppuku.
Yeah,
I will not vote for the rest of the year.
Bailey Smith.
All right. So, Max Holmes. I'll just wrap us up thusly. I think he's playing exceptionally. I think Bailey Smith's had a better year, but Max Holmes' last few weeks, I would say his last month is really stepping up. He's gone 30 touches, 7 marks, 5 tackles against the Giants. Quite a one against Port, 22 touches, 5 marks, a couple of tackles. But then last week against the Dogs, I mean, in probably, one of our biggest 2 or 3 matches of the season so far, 33 disposals. And as I said last week, that was career high contested possessions for him. I think he had 19, which was the highest he's ever had. 5 marks, 3 tackles, 3 free kicks, 4 and a goal. And then 27 touches, 7 marks. I think he had 7 clearances on the weekend. Kicked a couple of behinds. So, you add a goal or two to that. I think I just want to see him be healthy all through a season. It's been so cruel, like the things that he has missed out on. Like, it's sort of under the radar. This fucker isn't a premiership winner.
Mm.
Like, he wasn't there in 2022. It sort of escapes me at times. Like, we need to win. I mean, 2 or 3 more. Let's be honest. But we need. I need to see this man with a premiership medal around his neck. In the hoops. And he was lightning on the weekend. I thought he was one of those players that he's just got that speed. Like I said, there was a moment in the first quarter where he just preys on a short conservative kick out of 50, and he just he times it to perfection. He just sprints and intercepts. Yeah, and so I watch a lot of American football. He's like a great cornerback or a great safety. They wait, they pray, they wait on the quarterback's eyes, and then as soon as they know where that ball's going, they just take off at full tilt. And he's done it multiple times this season. So I think he's finally starting to understand too how good he is. Like doing those sorts of things, like when players go, "Oh, I've got this skill in my asset that like only like 2 or 3% of the league has." Like I'm one of the fastest people in Australia who plays footy, so I'm going to use it to my advantage. I think it's a scary time for the league, and the fact that he and Bailey Smith are so young is incredible.
I heard there was 2 separate broadcasts. There was one broadcast through the week where they were talking about Holmes, his running goal that he got, and they're like, "God, you can find." We're finally starting to see what Danger said. They were like, we remember when he joined Danger said he had Judd-like qualities, and we all thought that he was out of his tree. And they're like, "God, if he keeps doing that, he's not far off." And then today, I was watching. Oh, I can't remember who it was now. I was one of the panels anyway, and they talking about Smith, and they were like, "God, you know who Smith is starting to look like? He's starting to look like peak Ben Cousins." And I was like, "God, if we could have Chris Judd and Ben Cousins in the same team, I think we'll be doing all right."
Absolutely. Alongside Jamie Cameron and Patrick Dangerfield.
Yeah.
And Reece Stanley, of
Not
course.
a bad problem to have.
Premiership ruckman.
Exactly, of course, from the crypt.
Now
I need to get
realistic karate chop action.
Coming to your store soon. Reece Stanley from the crypt. Now,
the
karate
toy
chopping
box is
action.
like crypt shape, the coffin shaped toy box.
And you press a button behind
Reece
it.
Stanley now with fully
chops open the
articulated
door.
joints. Love it. All right. That's all on the public part of the show. We would love to see you over on the Patreon, because that is where we are headed. Dear listener, dear viewer, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Hoops Crew. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. So help us get there. I think we're only about less than a half century away. So yeah, help us get to 2,000. We are almost reaching our Patreon goal as well. We are currently at 39 paid members. We want to hit 50 by the end of the season. If there's 11 of you out there who think, you know what, I've been listening for a year or two, these folks on the Hoops Crew are pretty decent, maybe I'll chuck them $5 a month to support their dream. Somebody think of the children. That's right. Then go on over to Patreon and sign up for a 7-day free trial. No harm, no foul. See what it's all about. All right. Thanks very much. Until next time, which is next Tuesday night. Go Cats!
Go Cats!
Go Cats!